Hey, what's up, everybody? I wanted to invite you to a special, very first episode of Classic TV Spotlight. Uh, it's My name's Donnie. If you saw my introduction video, I mentioned how I'm a big fan of classic movies and TV shows, and that's the gist of what my channel is going to be about. So for today, my very first video. I'm going to be talking about my all-time favorite show, and that would be The Twilight Zone. I love The Twilight Zone. As you can see with my special shirt here, I've been a fan of it ever since I was a kid. I remember my dad and uncle introduced me to it. Uh, my dad brought home these VHS tapes he got from work, and each tape had about 3 or 4 episodes of The Twilight Zone on, and I watched them all and just fell in love with it. As a kid, I thought it was just so cool. It had aliens and monsters and robots and all sorts of stuff that kids were into. Um, and my all-time favorite episode became "To Serve Man." It's one of the most famous episodes of the whole series, and I just thought it was so cool. But as I got older, I learned to really appreciate um, the brilliance and genius of it, particularly the genius of Rod Serling, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest writers of all time, if not the greatest, maybe. He created just an absolute, thought-provoking show, and it's something that I've really grown to appreciate over the years. I've seen every episode, probably at least a dozen times, and it's just one of those shows I could just watch at any time. And I want to talk a little about it and how interesting it was and some common themes you see in the series. Uh, for one thing, I think that makes Twilight Zone so indelible and long lasting is the fact that is how influential it was. You could see like fingerprints of the Twilight Zone all over different TV shows, movies, books, whatever. Um, Movies such as Poltergeist and Child's Play and Planet of the Apes, which Rod Serling was one of the writers on, they all have plots that are like almost directly lifted from Twilight Zone episodes. And even not in that regard, in other aspects of media, you can see the influence of the zone. Um, Shows things such as Star Trek and Star Wars and X-Files and other anthology shows like Tales from the Crypt and Tales from the Dark Side, and more recently shows like American Horror Story and Black Mirror. Black Mirror is probably one of the most blatant, inspired by shows of the Twilight Zone. In fact, a couple of years ago at the Emmy Awards, the producers of Black Mirror thanked Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone for inspiring their work on the show, which I thought was cool. Uh, and some things that have really stood out about the show is its approach to social issues. Rod Serling was not afraid of talking about hard hitting issues and not just creating some show that was entertaining and had some cool stuff in it. He wanted to leave his mark and talk about different issues that were plaguing uh, America and all around the world. And but he was able to use the guise of science fiction to tell these stories. There was a quote from Serling himself that I may not have this quote exactly, but he said something like, "An alien or a robot could say something that a Democrat or Republican can't." So he was able to use science fiction and horror and fantasy as metaphors and allegories to talk about these different problems. One such concern was around the time was the Cold War and McCarthyism and the Blacklist. Uh, and he had episodes directly related to that. Episodes such as Monsters Are Due on Maple Street and Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up, where instead of accusing everyone of being a communist, they were accusing everyone of being aliens. So it kind of like shows how he was able to do that. Another issue that was dealt with in the Twilight Zone was beauty standards, and how people are always striving for the perfect look. Episodes such as Eye of the Beholder and Number 12 Looks Just Like You are still very relevant today, as you see, as people always are disappointed in themselves and how they look and striving to be better, just sometimes disastrous results. And he had some good messages with those episodes. Racism was very prevalent in Twilight Zone. Episodes such as I Am the Night, Color Me Black, and The Encounter, and Quality of Mercy, deal with our own, hatred of and internalized prejudice of those who are different from us, and he was able to confront this head on. War was always a prevalent theme in the Twilight Zone. There were several war-themed episodes, and this is probably taken on more of a personal note because Ryan Serling was a World War II veteran, and he certainly made his opinions known on those regards. So the Twilight Zone wasn't the first show or movie that, and it certainly won't be the last to talk about different issues and use metaphors and allegories for them. But certainly you look at media today, and you could see how people are using different storytelling devices to talk about hard-hitting issues. One other, and some were taken more head on, not just using the allegories and metaphors. There was one such episode called Death's Head Revisited, which talks about the Holocaust. And in that episode, a former Nazi soldier returns to a concentration camp where he is haunted by the ghost of one of the prisoners that he killed. It's a gut punch of an episode, and really just takes it head on. Doesn't really, try to mask it, and it was very thought provoking and compelling episode, very profound. So you can see how this show's influence is certainly prevalent in these aspects. Another common theme of the Twilight Zone is the twist ending. It's probably one of the most notable things, calling cards to this show. And people always making jokes about being in the Twilight Zone. It says like, oh, the Twilight Zone is like, you watch it, you never saw it coming, and that. And there's so many twist endings. Like my favorite episode, To Serve Man, is one of the best twists. And even though this is a 60+ year show, I'm not gonna give away any spoilers because even though the statute of limitations on spoilers have probably run out, if you've never seen it, I'd like you to appreciate it for the first hand. But other twist endings include Eye of the Beholder and 5 Characters in Search of an Exit. Certainly many twists and turns in this show. And you could see that, and you could see the influence of that. How many movies and TV shows have twists that we never saw coming. And certainly M. Night Shyamalan has taken that plot device and run with it. He's built his whole career on that. So I'm sure the Twilight Zone has influenced his works as well. So all in all, this is just, a timeless classic, and it still holds up today. We see every year, twice a year on New Year's Day and the 4th of July, they have marathons on the Sci-Fi Network, and it's convenient for me because those are my two least favorite holidays. So I'm able to watch Twilight Zone all day, and makes it a little more joyful for me. And here I am. This is my all-time favorite show, and I was born 24 years after it ended, and I'm certainly not alone in this category. There's many people my age and even younger who are huge fans of the Twilight Zone. So it's not just a show that people grew up on and are nostalgic about. It's really stood the test of time, and if you've never seen it, which is hard, there's not too many people who've never seen the show. It's one of the most famous of all time. But if it's a show that maybe like you've only seen on occasion or just never really got into, I would definitely recommend it, and just give it a shot. You may find an episode like How to Serve Man is for me. Which another interesting tidbit: To Serve Man actually originally aired on my birthday. Granted, it was 26 years before I was born, but I always found that kind of cool. And not every episode is a classic. Is 156 episodes of the show, and there are a few clunkers, but those are few and far between. And usually, even ones that aren't that great, I could still find something interesting. Even if I know some of the twists of them, I still find them very interesting and still entertained by them. If I find it on TV, it's usually on early in the morning or late at night on MeTV. And if I watch it, I'll just sit down and watch it, and it gives me a good, warm-hearted feeling. So, conclusion: watch The Twilight Zone. It's a great show. I'll be wrapping things up, and the description, I'm gonna list my top 10 favorite episodes. See, do you agree, disagree with them? What are some of your favorite episodes? And if you have any shows you would like me to spotlight in future episodes, let me know. I'm gonna be bringing on even more. I have a few ideas of some shows and movies I want to talk about, so stay tuned for them. Like, comment, subscribe, all the works. So that will be it. We're coming up over 13 and a half minutes, so I'm gonna call it quits, and thank you for watching, and take it easy.